Awesome.
Thank you, everybody. I've lost my remote, so I'm going to use my phone for presentation. Okay, so we are a 3D printing ally. We are a very small, very dedicated 3D printing bureau here in Prairie. We're not connected to Stratasys in any way. We use some of their equipment and materials. That's the only connection we have. I doubt they even know we exist. But our tagline is, we're not just another printing bureau. We're committed to partnering up with our customers to find the best design, process, material to fit their needs. And we live by that. A lot of companies they hear about 3D printing, they don't understand how it can really fit in their business, and they need somebody to just kind of come in and show them what's possible, and then let them figure out where that fits their needs in their company. We can't just go in and tell them, hey, you need to change that, make it 3D printed, that needs to be 3D printed. We need to kind of educate and get people involved and get them thinking about it. We're a small team. Myself, I run day-to-day operations at the location. Doug Depper is my business partner. He's got a ton of experience in small businesses, so I'm really helpful and glad to have him on board. And then Harrison and Brett, both industrial designers that work for us. They do a lot from quoting to production and everything from end to end. We're a small team, so we wear a lot of hats. We all do all the jobs, so it's really nice to have them like that. And our ownership group is really comprised of a lot of different people from within the industry, corporate people, small business executives. So we got a really good combination of people. All right, so for those that don't know, we're going to define 3D printing for you real quick. Basically, it's anything you can lay down in layers, in successive layers, to make it an object. It could be any number of different types of materials. Basically, it's going to be a powder, a liquid, or a solid. It could be powdered plastic, it could be powdered metal, it could be gypsum powder, could be solid plastic, could be chocolate, could be concrete. Anything you can lay down in layers and build up a part is considered 3D printing. It's known by a few different names. Direct digital manufacturing is we're taking that digital file and we're creating a physical product out of it. Rapid prototyping, that's how it really started, was in prototyping, so it was tagline rapid prototyping. But additive manufacturing, if you hear additive manufacturing, that's really the key term going forward, because we're adding material only where it's needed. And that's the way it's going to be specified in ASTM specs moving forward. So what do we offer? We're like a machine shop with 3D printers. We don't do a lot of design work. We just basically bring in the files, specify, the customers a lot of times specify what material they want, and we just make parts and ship them. That's really the key to our business. We have 3 different technologies in-house: SLA, SLS, and FDM. For our size company, that's a little bit unheard of. A lot of companies like to specialize in one or another, but we want to be diverse. And then among those, we have 7 materials to choose from, and that's just what we have in-house. We have a really good partner network that has a lot of different materials and machines to offer, so we can pretty much fill anybody's need in the 3D printing space, but that's what we have in-house. Engineering support for single part or large projects. The large projects are what I really like. My background's a manufacturing engineer, so that's what I like spending my time doing, designing fixtures, figuring out how 3D printing can fit. So we definitely do a lot of that. We do some secondary operations, painting, sanding. We actually outsource a lot of that to some of our partners. We're not real good at it, but we want to be able to offer it, so it's definitely there if needed. A little bit of CAD design, trying to get away from that somewhat, because that's not as value add as just printing and shipping. So, short run production and education on 3D printing. The short run production is getting more and more. People need a certain number of parts that just can't invest in the tooling up front. So it's really fun to get involved in some of those projects and make a lot of parts. So the types of jobs that we do. The first one is a custom job, be like a large assembly. A lot of the museum people do. It's a large animal. We get the file in, figure out how it's going to be split, so there's a lot of upfront time involved before we even start printing. A standard job is basically they send in a part, they tell us exactly what they need, we print it, we ship it. That's the quickest and most profitable type of job we do. And then production, I'm trying to get a system set up where certain customers can just feed their parts into our production system and they just get put in line. A little bit of verification up front, but not a whole lot. And that'll save us a lot of time and money up front, and I'll be able to offer better pricing to some of our bigger customers. So our biggest challenge is the education part of it. It's tough. It takes a long time to get some of these people convinced that 3D printing is really the way to go on some of this stuff. And we've been doing it for almost 5 years now. We're seeing customers we talked to 2-3 years ago finally coming around. So I mean, it's a very long sales cycle on some of this stuff. Our marketing, our large competitors. So our suppliers are also our competitors. Stratasys, 3D Systems, they also own their own service bureaus. They have huge marketing budgets. So out-marketing them just isn't going to happen. So we need to find new ways to let current users of 3D printing know we exist. Basically, somehow interrupt that flow of customers to their businesses. Building IT infrastructure to support in-house production. We're about 75% complete on that. We had somebody build some apps on top of Zoho, tied into our CRM, and everything's working really well. And it's feeding that information to our shop so that they know exactly what to build and when. We've still got to do the shipping part of it, the invoicing part of it, but right now it's working really well. And then finding rainmakers. Rainmakers are what we call somebody like inside of Boston Scientific or Medtronic that just floods us with work, and then when we support them and do a good job for them, they tell friends, and we get integrated with big companies and then spread the word basically. So what do we need? We need contacts. Like I said, we can't really out-market our competitors, so we need to find those people inside those big companies, small companies. A lot of these designers just don't get out much. They don't spend a lot of time networking or anything, so it's hard to find those people. And if you try to cold call, they basically, there's the person up front doesn't even know who does the 3D printing or who would make that decision. So if you have any contacts of product designers, engineers, anything like that, especially in med tech in this town, that'd be helpful. Project managers, anybody. We're doing projects with construction companies right now where they're actually printing out the proposed project so they can present it to the customer, and it gives them an extra wow factor in the meeting. So that's another good project for us. Innovative marketing strategies. Like I said, we can't outspend our competitors. Pay-per-click's working fairly well for us right now. We're getting into some bigger companies just because we're getting better exposure on the web. But the traditional cold calling doesn't seem to work. The traditional email blasts and stuff like that, buying lists and all that. We know we have a lot of marketing people here, but that doesn't seem to really work for us. So I'm looking for different ways to get a hold of people and get in front of them. We've hired consultants and tried to do different different things traditionally, and it just doesn't seem to work for us. Either we don't have the budget for it, or it's a different animal altogether. So that's basically what we're finding. And thank you for listening. We did bring some sample parts over there. I'd be happy to talk to anybody about the different processes and how it works. I have some samples back there. The 1 Million Cups logo, those are obviously open for anybody. And thank you very much for listening.
The spirit of 1 Million Cups is to be supportive of our entrepreneurs. So with your questions to help them, help Tyler excel with 3D Printing Ally. So with that, who wants to get started?
Have you done any event marketing? Demonstrating your product in front of people that
We've done
are
some
assembling and...
Yeah, we've done lunch and learns, and anytime somebody will let us come in and present to a team, we jump in with that. Not too many of them have really worked out. We've been into Honeywell, we've been into 3M. We'll buy them lunch and we'll present what we're capable of, show them sample parts. So yeah, anytime we have an opportunity to do that, we do it.
I'm thinking of things like maybe a home and garden show or something like that, that might be, you would think that, oh, that's a little bit off, we're not anything to do with a home, but there's so many thousands of people that goes to these things, and a lot of them might be the fruit you're looking to pick.
Sure. We kind of backed away from any trade shows because, again, our competitors have these ginormous booths with all kinds of great stuff, and you know we just can't compete with that. So we're trying to spend our marketing dollars wisely rather than just trying to go head to head with them on.
Okay, so that's a common marketing strategy.
It pretty much is, and then if you're not really targeting the people that will buy in the next week or say month, then that's kind of a hard sell for. If you're talking to like classic car guys or boat people, or yeah, that's a really good potential market, but not too many of them are ready to just start buying right then and there. So it's tough to spend that money on those types of things. Yes.
Tyler, when you're talking about making contacts with people that do 3D printing, can you like narrow that down to, I mean, like, is there a specific segment? You mentioned the auto guys or the boat guys. I mean, is there a specific segment of people that you look for that maybe, somebody here would jog your memory to say, I know a person in that industry?
The big industry, especially in this town, is medical device development. We do a lot of just verification of pieces and parts. They go back and they fully assemble everything. If they find a problem, they'll have it. And we've done 2 projects where it's like every day we're doing a new version of a part. So yeah, definitely med device, any kind of product development. And then just designers in general, in machine shops, fab shops, that's a good one for us because a lot of them don't understand how the fixturing can just be implemented very quickly and very cost effectively to help speed up their process and help save them money. Yes?
Two questions. So first is, you mentioned the 6 materials. What are the 6 materials you're printing?
So basically, we have nylon, we have ABS, polycarbonate, Ultim 9085, and then we have 3 materials in our SLA, which are mimic ABS, polypropylene, and clear polycarbonate.
Okay. And if you said you're starting to shy away from design, do you partner with people on design?
Absolutely. If we have, it depends on what type of product it is. Like when we did the animals, we definitely needed people that do like ZBrush and could do that sculpting and molding type of CAD work versus mechanical CAD work. So we do have some partners we use for that type of thing, but it depends on the project. We get calls, it's like I got this idea and I want somebody to design it. Well, we shy away from those because we have no idea when that's going to turn into 3D printing.
Right.
Yeah, there's got to be a 3D printed part in the future very quickly.
What about 3D printing of metals? Do you do any of that?
We do not. Currently that's about $1 million investment just to get the machine up and running in the space, and it's a whole different animal versus plastic. And you really do need a machine shop to support the post-processing. But that's changing. There are newer machines coming out. It's almost like a metal injection mold type process that is far less money to get into, so it's really appealing to us. Beth? Good.
Do you have any involvement with medical health?
Some. We don't have a lot to offer the group, so it was tough to justify the membership. I mean, we would just be going in there looking for leads, basically. Okay. And then, so I did talk to them, and they basically said if you don't have a lot to offer the group, then they asked that you just kind of not just use them for lead gen. So we respect them.
So we're in the exact same situation. We have long lead cycles. It's all B2B. It's all medical device companies. $500 a year, I think, or maybe $1,000. It's really nothing. They have been incredible for networking, but you have to use them. You have to do the. I call Frank about once or twice a quarter with some idea, and they almost always fall through and get something done. They've been great in terms of the networking, especially in the medical device community. It's about getting your name out, looking bigger than you are, and they've been absolutely fantastic at helping do that.
Okay, we're definitely going to revisit that. Yes.
Just to understand the business of the is the process usually prototyping, and then once the customer has it just how they want it, they do the long-term production? Or are you producing parts regularly for customers that you're their supplier?
It's been around over 30 years. When it started off, it was all prototyping. And once they got the design dialed in, yes, they go to injection molding machine, whatever it may be. But more and more it is end-use production. We'll do very large parts that just can't be done any other way. And it's very low volume, so the investment in any kind of tooling or anything would be astronomical. Early on production or filling gaps, we've actually made parts for Tesla because they couldn't get parts from China fast enough, and it was going to shut down their line. So we ended up making some parts that actually went into cars. So yes, end-use production is a big part of 3D printing moving forward, definitely.
How does material strength stack up versus injection molding?
So with the three different technologies we have, FDM is true thermoplastic. It is the actual material. So property-wise, it's exact. Strength-wise, it's got kind of a wood grain effect. So in Z direction, it's going to be a little bit weaker. But the other technologies are within about 80%, 80 to 85% of an injection molding.
Tyler, I appreciate you have other outside owners. I just was curious, have they been helpful finding sources of work for the company? And are there other opportunities to leverage your ownership group to get business?
So when we started this, they owned Metal Supermarkets, which is it's a metal distribution company, very small. So that's the first thing we did was hit up their customer list and went out there and definitely machine shops and that kind of stuff. It worked out okay. There wasn't a lot of sales that came from that, but the group itself, I very quickly realized that if I tried to do this on my own, I would have been broke a long time ago. So just having their support, not only financially, but the support in every other fashion, accounting, HR, all these different issues that you don't think of as an entrepreneur when you're trying to start up a business, leaning on them. As far as leading, I think we've exhausted most of their contacts. I think we've talked to everybody they've ever known back to kindergarten. But no, the group itself has been invaluable.
What about your customers? Do you have any sort of a referral program or informal, hey, can you introduce us to anybody like you?
To a certain extent, yeah. When we can get in there and talk to them, we try to, with new customers, we really try to hand deliver those first parts so I can get to know the person, and then, hopefully they'll take me on a tour, maybe introduce me to a few people, kind of stuff. But yeah, definitely. We don't have like a referral program like, 10% off of, the referral. No. Those types of things don't seem to work well with engineers and product developers. They just need really good parts. They need them really fast. So that's a better sell to, better referral than anything else. Yes.
Can you describe what you might consider to be the most impactful, interesting product you've ever printed?
The project we did for the museum was, I never in a million years would have thought we'd be doing that. They had over 100 pieces to do for a new museum in Kuwait, so they could not do this traditionally. There just wasn't enough time. So we helped them out and found artists that could actually design this stuff digitally, send the files to us, we would segment them up, print them, and assemble them, and then send them over to them, and they would hand paint them, and they ended up being absolutely gorgeous by the time they were done. So that was a huge, and then we did probably 25, 30 different pieces, everything from little lizards up to big dogs, all kinds of birds and fish, and just all kinds of crazy stuff that we never would have thought we'd do. Another project we did was some people that make facial prosthetics, and they needed, especially with one patient, they needed a way to get a working model so they could create the prosthetic on top of it. Normally, they would do an impression of an affected area, but this gentleman had, big problems. So we were able to take CT scan data and turn that into a rigid tool that then they could actually create the prosthetic on top of. They didn't. It was just a tool in the process.
So have you tried to leverage those stories into really good PR, because those are really compelling?
We're not really good at that. Yeah, you're right. We do need to get better at doing that. We do have a new marketing person who's doing our pay-per-click and some other stuff, and we're going to help. He's going to help us grow. And yeah, we definitely need to do some more, white papers and stuff like that on some of those stories when we can talk about them.
To kind of piggyback on top of that, I've heard you say a couple of times, you don't go to the shows because the big guys are there and you can't compete with them. But I've also heard you say you've done a lot of business because of the quick turnaround that you guys have.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, probably the same thing, are there opportunities for you to leverage that at some of these shows to say, yeah, we can't compete with those guys, but when you need something fast, we're the people to come to.
If you look at the marketing, material for like companies, especially like Proto Labs, that's their whole, everybody's going to say they're fast, everybody's going to say they do great parts. So I don't think that's enough of a differentiator to, at a trade show. Having really cool parts out there, getting people drawn in, or having machine running, that really does help, even if it's a little maker bar or something like that. That does help somewhat, but it's the cost associated with, and the travel. We're a 3-person team, so taking one person, even one person out of that for, say, a week to do a trade show is really painful right now. So it's been another reason we don't do trade shows. Yep.
I don't want to hog
I don't think
and identity is kind of what you're looking for. And it seems to me like one of the things, well, you identified 2 really compelling projects. Both of them, you never would have thought that people would have been interested in using you for that.
Okay.
It seems to me like maybe that's a potential for an identity, because you want to be the company that gives people a belief that they can do what they need to have done, somehow. And to do that, over and over, releasing these compelling stories about not so much the printing process itself as this is what the printing process did for somebody that had a need.
That's good.
Because there probably are, well, even in this room, people would probably say, wow, I got an idea. I never knew I could have a source to try that or solve a problem somehow. So an identity, anyway, is something that you're seeking. And those 2 stories that you talked about, to me, they're really compelling stories.
Well, yeah, definitely look at doing some more of that type of stuff.
Tyler, kind of on that same theme, have you ever looked at like hyper specializing? Because I have the impression that you will take on projects wherever they come right now versus going to market and saying we just do medtech, 3D printing or something like that. Have you ever thought of, or have you ever looked at like just being hyper specialized in one market?
From a production standpoint, it doesn't matter what it is.
Right.
So we don't.
I get that.
Yeah, we don't really.
This is more of a marketing question.
No, we haven't really considered that.
Okay.
Because we can pretty much do one store. I was giving a tour one time and somebody asked that same question, what all can you print? And I opened up the screen on the computer and we were printing these pieces for eye surgery, a little disposable piece that they use for a device for eye surgery. Right next to it were 3D printed bow ties. So that was the range of products that just go into the machine and are built at the same time.
So the reason I asked this question, this is something I know that's been brought up in a number of articles and people hear it all the time, but the vast majority of people don't really realize how impactful it is. I'll never forget when I finally woke up to this at an EO meeting, when an EO member came in and talked about their business, an IT shop. So they would always, an IT shop, the standard, they do websites, they'll do social media, they do everything. And at one point, they finally had a breakdown of the founders and had a bit of fisticuffs and argued about what they should really do going forward. And it turns out that they determined their most valuable customers were specifically people that wanted to develop around Microsoft Dynamics. And so they overnight became just solely focused on Microsoft Dynamics. It was super scary because, as the story goes, they basically got rid of 60-80% of their business overnight and just focused on that. And then that business ended up being hugely valuable, and I think it just sold for $60 or $100 million in the last 12 or 24 months. And it's because they hyper-focused, because everybody, before nobody knew what really they did or what they were good at, because they would do websites and everything else. And when they became just known as a Microsoft Dynamics shop, that's when it just like took off. And so those stories have really stuck with me, and it just seems like that's something that might be helpful for you, especially sitting in Eden Prairie when we're in medical device heartland. There's some opportunities to say, we're really good at this thing. Doesn't mean you can't do a last minute project of bow ties or 3D printed animals, but the market's going to know you for one very specific thing. So.
Just to piggyback on that, from a marketing perspective, I was thinking, instead of just one vertical, maybe identify 3 or 4 verticals that you can, really differentiate yourself. And if you have those on the website, like the person who asked you, what can you do? If somebody goes on your website, we can do automotive parts, prosthetics. I was just thinking, I recently replaced a part in my washing machine. It's over 10 years old, and I couldn't find it. I Googled everywhere, and it's out of stock. I found the part number. I found the design from GE, but I couldn't find the part, so I super glued it. Anyways, hopefully but anyway, the point is, I think the verticals, kind of the same theme, the verticals, we focus on like 3 verticals or 4 verticals, just from a marketing perspective, so that even for, I think, SEO, that might even kind of drive traffic, I'm guessing.
And experience I've had in my career as a sports marketing guy for a company called CNS, which made Breathe Right, and we got our start through athletic trainers. And athletic trainers are people that have ideas. They've got so many ideas, about what they would like to introduce, so many business ideas. And I would suggest that maybe talk to somebody at the Minnesota Athletic Trainers Association, and tell them that, you'd like to be a resource for your trainers to come to you with their ideas, that kind of thing.
They're really too early for 3D print. They've got to talk to a designer and get it to a point where they got something to 3D print. We try to stay out of that really early stage product development, because it's just, it may be a good idea, maybe not. They need to do a lot of research before they get to the point where they need something.
Do you know designers you could refer?
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of our customers are designers. We try
And
to support
you're a
them.
resource then.
Sure.
You're a resource of information for people with ideas. And it might be too early. You're always going to need business.
Mhm.
So what's an inexpensive way to think about business 3 or 4 years from now even? You can't really exclude that. I don't.
That's true. No,
think.
you're right. Sorry.
I have 2 more. Go ahead, Dave.
You mentioned a couple times that you don't do the design. Is that something you could bring in as a service? I mean, if you had a designer, pick one of these niche markets, if you wanted to focus on a niche, you say, not only can we do it, we can work with you, design it, and all this sort of things, so we can help you along. Is that?
Currently, we outsource that. I don't see having somebody on staff, because there's so many. If we specialize, like in medical device, I can definitely see having somebody on staff that could help with that design. Because some of the smaller companies, they need that help. But just being broad, it's hard to find a designer that can handle both, say, animals and mechanical parts. So that's why we outsource, and it helps us a lot.
One more.
Yeah, just, are you focused on Twin Cities market pretty much?
That's, speed is everything in our business, and even that one-day shipping to a different city does hurt some projects. So the Twin Cities is a big market for us, of course, but we've shipped all over the world. We have a lot of customers, and in fact, one of our biggest customers is California, so we have daily shipments almost going out to them.
So if I'm in the Twin Cities and I'm looking for 3D printing services, how do I find you? On Google?
Yeah, on Google, and that's where the pay-per-clicks are really been paying off, as far as, especially in the Twin Cities, we focused a lot. Saw the report there today, I don't know exactly how to read it, but we're doing fairly well as far as pay-per-click and ranking in the Twin Cities right now. But this market also has Stratuses in the neighborhood, so that's again, we're going up against a 500-pound gorilla right there.
And Prairie.
It probably
Awesome. Thank you.